Imagine, if you will, being 13 years old and being bigger than your father, who's by no means a small man. That's just a sample of some of the struggles that my guest today has dealt with his whole life. At 29 years of age, he had a gastric bypass, and while he did manage to drop an amazing 274 pounds, he never felt good and wound up developing hypoglycemia along the way. Fast forward several years, and he had gained a lot of the weight back. His body had changed, but his mindset had not. Just a little over a year ago, back up to 450 pounds, he stumbled across a podcast that changed his life. And several months after that, he added DDP Yoga to his routine. The result is a man who's never felt better in his whole life. I think it's time you hear the rest of this amazing story from the man himself. Please welcome Scott King. Scott, welcome to the Jacked Up Podcast, buddy. Glad to have you on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I actually discovered you through the Fat Guy Forum with Gormy, who's actually been on the show himself, and your story really touched me. There was a lot of things in your background and what got you from where you were to where you are now that really spoke to me as somebody. Myself, I went from 405 pounds to where I am now. So, I mean, I've had a journey myself, and I'm still on one. Still got a little more to go. So, but you know how that is. But why don't you tell our viewers, just give us a little background and where you were at your heaviest and how you got to where you are now.
All right. So let's see. My heaviest I got to was somewhere in the 570s. I can't tell you exactly what it was because when you're that heavy, not every scale will weigh you.
Oh, yeah.
I had to have a gastric bypass, or when I had gastric bypass, I had to lose a little bit of weight in order to qualify for the gastric bypass.
Wow.
So I can tell you the day of my gastric bypass surgery, I was 552 pounds.
Wow.
I got down to 276. It was a one day deal that I saw that weight. I was primarily floating around the 280s. Which by no means I get. That is not a small weight, but no. For me that's amazing. That's small. So unfortunately, I kind of started testing myself a little bit more here and there. Can I try this? Can I eat this? And I never learned the proper way of eating. I just relied solely on the gastric bypass and the stomach surgery to cause my weight loss. So sure enough, an all too common story, unfortunately, is I started adding more weight.
Right.
And, I knew it was going up, but I didn't know how bad it was going up. So fast forward, I don't know, 8-9 years down the road. I knew I was crazy obese. And it seems like whenever you get really, really fat, you tend to make sure you stay out of pictures. So I never really saw pictures of myself or nothing. But, I remember what really kind of started making me think about making a change was my little baby bolted for the street one time, and I was just sitting in a patio chair, and man, there was nothing I could have done to catch up with that little baby before she got into the road. Thank God we didn't live on a busy road, but it was kind of like an alarm. It was a red flag to me. Like, man, I can't even do something as simple as protecting my kid.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about doing keto during that time, but I'll just be honest. I'm lazy. I want easy, and all this macro stuff and figuring out things, and you can only eat a cow that was born on this day, then 76-degree weather. There's like all kinds of weird stipulations with keto. It seems like that it's just the most just seemed to be a pain in the butt to me. And I know that's a poor excuse, but I knew I would fail because it's just too much work for me. And I started hearing about a guy named Vinny Tortorich that does something called NSNG, no sugar, no grains. I heard him on one of my podcasts I listened to. And it basically was just a list of don't eat this, do eat that. And I like that. You kind of give me some parameters.
Made it simple. Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me stop you a second before you get too far into that. Now you said that you had the gastric bypass. Let me ask you, what What, if anything, did you try before the gastric bypass to lose weight? I mean, did you try a lot of diets, exercise? What all did you dabble with before you finally went to the gastric bypass?
You know, I mean, it seems like everything. I tried everything. I tried doing shake supplements. I tried Weight Watchers. I tried Atkins. I just tried, I tried working out. I'll be honest. When I was really young, like 18, 19 years old, I even dabbled with steroids a little bit to see if that would do anything for me.
Right.
All that did was just make me a more aggressive fat guy. So that's about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what winds up happening when you do that. Unfortunately.
Yeah. But so I really tried everything, and I'd say my greatest success I ever had prior to that would be with Atkins, and that was maybe 1997, 98, roughly.
Okay, so that was before the keto craze really took off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I lost maybe 65 pounds, and then just like every other diet, for whatever I lost, I made up for and then some.
Right.
It was just like, okay, here's a 65-pound loss, but you're going to get an 80-pound gain out of this.
Yeah. So, and it's horrible how often that happens, and it doesn't matter whether it's extreme weight or whether it's just 20 or 30 pounds. A lot of times that seems, it tends to happen, especially when people can't find their way to sustainable change.
Right.
When they bounce back from whatever it was they lost, even if it's only 20 or 30 pounds, they wind up picking up more in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. So that's what you did beforehand, and you had the gastric bypass, and then you discovered the NSNG. So take things from there and let's see what happens.
So I at the time I started an NSNG, I remember I just went in for a physical and for my doctor, and I weighed in, and in my head, because I maxed out all the scales at my house, so in my head I was, I don't know, 360, 380 pounds, somewhere around.
Right.
So I hopped on a scale at the doctor's office, and it read 450 pounds even.
Wow.
Which they then informed me that that's the highest the scale goes. So I was more than that. There was no way I'm 50.0,
Right.
So I just maxed out the scale.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I just maxed out the scale there. So I was at least 450 pounds. And prior to that, I don't know if you can really make this statement or not, but I was, for a fat guy, healthy. I was never on medication. I was never on anything.
Right.
I had normal blood pressure. Well, at that time, at that physical is when they said, no, you need to go on blood pressure medication. And then I just realized, the writing's on a wall. My days are numbered.
Right.
If I can't make a change now, I'm just not going to be there for my kids. And I'm already an older father. I'm 42 years old.
Yeah.
And my youngest right now is 3 years old. So they're
more power to you, man. I can't even imagine at this stage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a handful. And I got 3 girls. So I got a 9, a 7, and a 3-year-old. So
I have 5 kids. 3 were girls. I understand.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is I was not planning for a future that was going to have me around with them. I was just kind of unfortunately putting the nails in the coffin.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of said, okay, well, and I'm sorry, I did try to have the gastric bypass again. I tried over and over and over. Okay. And because that's the only thing I've ever had any success on.
Right.
For some sort of time. And I got denied over and over and over again. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, is this how I end it? Do I just eat myself to death and we're done? And then I just said, I got to give this NSNG a whirl. I just can't give up.
Sure.
And you know what? I did what Vinny says to do, and I just went wholeheartedly, fully in. And within 2-3 weeks there, I got went through all the withdrawals, got all the garbage out of my system, and I truly did lose the craving for the junk and the sweets and the sugars and the carby stuff. And
so now let me ask you something real quick. I had never even heard the term NSNG before, and that may sound strange for coming somebody that's a nutrition expert, but it's just a terminology that I've never heard before. No sugar, no grains. To me, that sounds like a traditional keto diet. Okay. The only difference,
yeah.
the only difference between what you're describing, at least how I take it at this point, compared to the ketogenic diet, is with the ketogenic diet, you're manipulating your fat and your proteins, but it's still, you want to stay away from grains and stay away from sugar. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same wavelength, because like I said, I'd never heard the term before. I have heard of Vinny before. I've heard of Vinny before, but I'd never heard that terminology.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just, to me, what it really seems like is a simpler, more of a dumbed down approach to keto almost. It's like, here's the list, and you are naturally kind of going keto,
right?
You know? So yeah, I mean, it worked for me, and I immediately started feeling better. I started noticing that the inflammation, the natural side effects you get with keto or NSNG is, your inflammation goes down. And I've always joked about it. I didn't know I was inflamed in the first place, but I apparently I was, because my joints were not as stiff. I didn't hurt as bad. Stupid pain started going away.
Right.
And but I didn't know for sure. I was feeling better. I just didn't know for sure that I was actually losing weight, because my scale just didn't weigh me. So it would just error. And here and there, I'd just hop on it to see if I saw a number, and error. And then after a few months, I don't know how many months I was in, I stepped on it one time, and I got off. I was like, oh crap, is that a number? Did I see a number? And,
right.
And sure enough, it's where it started. And I was like, wow, this is really working. And it's been fantastic. And I just love it. And when I had the gastric bypass, this is a pretty common thing for people that have gastric bypass, is I developed hypoglycemia.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not overly intelligent on what it is, but from what I can gather, it's like opposite of diabetes, really.
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I thought it was normal every time you eat to be tired and lethargic and clammy and sweaty and out of it. And
no.
I thought that was just how life was. And then I noticed virtually instantly that all of those feelings went away. I was like, oh, wow, food can actually be energy. It can actually sustain you, and you don't have to feel lousy.
Exactly. And so now let me ask you, the hypoglycemia happened after the gastric bypass. Were you still practicing the NSNG at that point in time?
No.
So you were back to eating carbohydrates and whatnot then?
Oh man, I was eating just trash. Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Pastas and every noodle possible, and yeah, it was just trash.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it was amazing how good I felt, and literally since then, since I started that diet, I have had only one, or I started NSNG. I have only had one bout of where my hypoglycemia even bothered me, and that was because I didn't catch on to a food that I was eating had some sugar in it.
Right.
And it floored me, man. It threw me through for a loop. And this is something where virtually every meal, if not one meal a day, I was feeling lousy. And so what I've been doing is for nearly 17 months, and it's happened once since then. It was a mistake and an accident. I mean, that says a lot for the crap that we're taking in and we're consuming, I mean, if that's the kind of side effects you get from just eating, I mean, there's got to be a red flag somewhere.
Gotcha. So now, before the gastric bypass and all that stuff, let's go back a moment to what I'm going to call your aha moment. The whole situation where the baby bolted and you couldn't get to her. Was that was that your rock bottom? Was that the actual point that drove you to the point where you didn't know what it was that you were going to do, but you were going to do something to improve your health?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
As a father, we're supposed to be protectors of our family.
Absolutely.
And the fact that I could not even get my butt up out of the seat fast enough and chase down a little kid, and within a certain amount of time frame, I mean, I'm just occupying space at that point. What am I even doing? occupying space, waiting to die. And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right. And see, here's the thing. And I think you were fortunate in the fact that, and it's going to sound funny, but it's fortunate that your aha moment happened the way it did. Nobody was injured. You didn't have a health crisis or anything of that nature.
Right.
You know, there were just circumstances that were like a red flag that said, hey, something had to be happening. In my case, I almost died. My blood sugar was over 500. I was in a diabetic coma.
Geez.
And, you know, I was literally out. I passed out at work and I was out for like 7 hours. I wake up, my wife and my kids are standing over me bawling. And I got a doctor saying, look, man, you keep going the way you're going and you're not going to live to see 50. You're not going to live to see 45 if you keep that going. You know, so for everybody out there that has situations like Scott's and like mine, where you have that dramatic weight to lose, where you have so many issues with your health, if you can have that aha moment before it's a situation where it's life-threatening, consider yourself lucky, because trust me when I tell you, for as bad as you think it is, it can be a whole lot worse.
Oh, yeah. I do recognize that. I thank God did not have a wake-up call through a tragedy or something like that.
Right.
You know, and I count myself lucky that I was able to, you know, pump the brakes and recognize where I'm heading before something bad really happened.
Yeah. And it's,
I mean,
I love to hear when people, you know, it's going to sound kind of strange. And some people have even said it's somewhat masochistic, but I don't feel it's, I love to hear stories like yours and other people, because to me, it demonstrates the strength of the human spirit and our ability to muster up that will and that drive to take ourselves, no matter how drastic our physical, you know, situation may be, and, you know, just say, hey, I'm not living like this anymore. I'm going to improve the quality of my life, and then take steps to do it. I mean, that fascinates me. I mean, that's why I got into the health and fitness space, because I want to help as many people as I can have that aha moment, have that time where they can look back and reflect, you know, 5 years ago, I weighed 450 pounds and I couldn't get up and walk around the block without running out of breath. And, you know, now I'm running half marathons and stuff like that. Just blows me away every time I see it. And that was what touched me about your story. And, you know, listening to the podcast with you and Gormy, man, I mean, it just, I don't know. I just love it. I really do. So now, so you found the NSNG and you've done that. You did the gastric bypass. Now, didn't you also start dabbling with yoga?
Yeah. So it makes me laugh because my brother, he's a big muscle guy. You know how good buddies are.
Yes.
They always give people hard times, and your closest friends give you the hardest time.
Sure.
So they always used to joke. All my friends used to joke about if you remember the movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Yep.
And they always said that Schwarzenegger got the good DNA and the leftover crap went to Danny DeVito.
Right.
Well, my brother was the muscle guy and everything like that. And I was the Danny DeVito. All my buddies were busting my chops about that because I was the fat guy. My brother was the muscle dude. And he has had weight issues, but he's a jacked dude. And so he started lifting weights and really, really got big muscle-wise. And he started getting frustrated because he got so jacked that he lost his mobility.
Yes.
His mobility was trash, and he just didn't. It was bugging him, and he's a little more active with work, and it was limiting his ability to function well with work. So he started doing DDP Yoga, Diamond Dallas Page Yoga.
Yes.
And he was raving about it. He's like, man, I can move better. I feel better. And his muscles went from being bulky to more longer, leaner muscles. And he would not stop talking about it. And I was like, I tell him all the time, you know, Josh, I appreciate it, but man, it's freaking yoga. Come on, man. You know, I have zero interest in yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, after a while, I bought the DVDs, and I owned them for a year, and I never put one in. I never pressed play. And then I moved, and so I bought them when I was significantly heavier. So we moved to Texas from California, and when in the move, I lost the DVD, so I had to buy the set twice.
Oh no!
And then I'm cheap by nature, so I told myself, if I'm paying for these again, I gotta press play. I gotta start using these.
Yeah. Yep.
And also during this time, I was noticing just, you know, I have a desk job, and I'm thinking, how am I in constant pain? How do I have back pain from doing nothing? I do nothing. I sit at a desk. How is it? And I was like, well, I was noticing my posture was pretty messed up.
Oh yeah.
So I started doing the yoga, and within a week, 2 weeks, my posture was better. My small nagging aches and pains were gone. My flexibility was beyond what a fat guy should have. You know, it was just amazing, and I just almost instantly felt better. And then you compound the NSNG, or the ketogenic, you know, the anti-inflammatory diet of that, with stretching your joints and your muscles and breaking the tissues down, everything like that. My goodness. I mean, I feel like those two things complement each other so darn well.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
DDP Yoga, you know, and what's kind of an exciting thing that is on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. On Tuesday, Diamond Dallas Page actually gave me a call and to give me some, which was, man, that was a pretty high moment for me.
Oh,
like, man, why are you calling me, man? I'm nobody. This is awesome.
Dude, I would have been flipping out because I'm a wrestling fan. I remember watching Diamond Dallas Page in the ring. I mean, I'd have been losing it. I really would have.
Oh, dude, it's the coolest thing, because that dude, let's face facts, he has no reason he has to call me. No. He doesn't need to call me, but to call me and say, hey, man, I seen what you're doing. I'm proud of you. And oh, man, a pat on the back from someone like that means a lot. And,
it does. It does.
And also, and Vinny Tortorich, he's had me on his NSNG podcast a while back, and that was another one. That was a nice pat on the back, which it's.
Oh yeah.
I've never thought I was one of receiving encouragement, but it's pretty nice. I'll tell you, it's pretty nice. I've been enjoying it.
It is, and that's like, now you just recently, since we connected, you recently joined the DDP Transformation Group on Facebook, right?
Yeah, okay. I sure have.
Now I've been a member of that group since May, and I think I was in there for like a month or so. And the gentleman that founded the group, he asked me to be one of the resident coaches in there. And for an online community, you don't find many resources of motivation and support and almost like a brotherhood, like what there is in that DDP group. And it speaks for itself. In May of last year, they had 14,000 members. Just this month, they broke 23,000. So, I mean, they're growing by leaps and bounds, and it's because it is literally a brotherhood where you can get that support. And people don't realize how important that is. And it doesn't matter if it's coming from somebody like Diamond Dallas Page, or if it's coming from, just some guy in a Facebook group. When you can put a post out there, I learned a long time ago in my journey, especially once I got to the point where I had lost my first 100 pounds, and then I was at the point that I was ready to join a gym. I hadn't been in a gym since I was 16 years old, and at this point I'm 43. So, but this article that I read basically said one of the best ways to ensure success in any weight loss journey is to find a way to make yourself accountable. Okay. So that's what I did. I up until that point, I did not have a Facebook account. I didn't have anything like that. And I just started putting myself out there. I started my first little fitness page. It was called John's Fitness Journey. And like every time I would go to the gym, I'd post on there about what the workout was that I did. And every time I reached a milestone where I lost 10 pounds or did this or did that, I would post. And then that turned into, another page that I had called Old Man Beast Mode, which was the name that my son gave me because I was, I'm old and gray haired, and I would go in the gym and just tear it up. So then I got to the point where I got so inspired. I got myself off diabetic medicine. You know, I was at 200. My lowest weight as an adult was 239 pounds. And I was at like 12% body fat. I had not been 239 pounds since I was 12 years old. Okay. Because I was always big. I was big even as a kid, and I'm sure you can relate. Oh, so, yeah. You know, when you have those kinds of things happening in your life and you can share them with other people and people can turn around and use that for motivation, support in their life, and you can feed off of others, it's incredibly important, you know. Yeah. And it sounds to me like, you know, you found more than one resource, obviously, because you're maintaining what it is that you're doing. You're still making progress. You're getting calls from people like DDP. I mean, you know, that's pretty damn motivational in my book. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, and what I like about that dad bod page is that everyone's real. You know, there's no. I like how the topics talked about or the post that people talk about is true and real things that people like us experience and go through. So it's like you're not out of the ordinary. You know, you have people that you could understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm with you on this. I can't stand social media. And I unfortunately now have social media because I wanted to pigeonhole myself into being successful. I said, okay, if I'm seeing success, if I throw this out there, I'm going to look like an idiot if I fail. So
exactly.
So I did that. And what's kind of neat, a byproduct from it is I'm getting people reaching out to me that I've encouraged, and which is hard for me to comprehend. Like I'm encouraging somebody for weight loss. I mean, that people do that for me,
right. But isn't that an amazing feeling when that happens? When somebody says, "Look, man, I read your, I heard your podcast with Gormy, or heard your podcast with Vinny, or I've heard your story, or I read your story somewhere, and it inspired me, and because of that, now I'm making strides in my own life to improve, my health and fitness and all these things." Man, I'm telling you, it's. I've never felt anything like it. And I have literally, there's a gentleman, his name is Mike Matthews. He's written several books. I think one of them was Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. There's a bunch of different ones he's wrote. And he actually found my old little itty bitty John's Fitness Journey page, right? And I was actually posting, after I'd read his book and started applying some of the things, he actually read a few of my posts and he reached out to me and he had me do like a bio and had me sending some pictures and whatnot. And there for a long time, his old website, he actually had me featured as a testimonial on there. And that just blew me away. I mean, and I wasn't even like 2/3 of the way through my journey at that point. I had made strides, but I wasn't there yet. And the fact that he just picked up on that. And I mean, yeah, sure. Is some of that marketing? Yes, it is. Right. It's social proof. It's saying, look, this guy read my book. He put my principles to practice and he made results. I get that. And I get it more so now than I did then. But still, the feeling that you get from that, there's nothing that can describe it. And for me, it's addicting. That's why I started this podcast. That's why I started my business. That's why I'm getting into supplements and all these other things. My goal is to literally do everything I can to wipe out obesity before I die. Now, is it gonna happen? Probably not, because that's a pretty lofty goal. But I want to take a big chunk out of it on the way. You know what I'm saying? If I go down, I'm going to go down, but I'm going to take a chunk of it with me. That's how I feel. So and that's where getting involved in all this stuff and meeting guys like you is just like fuel to my fire. Without
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Indeed.
And I've learned, and people have told me is, I'm trying to pay all this stuff forward. What Diamond Dallas has done, what Vinny has done. I'm not trying to get anything out of this. I do get the encouragement and, more drive to keep on going.
Right.
So I've been doing this for just a little over 16 months, and I've lost 170 pounds with the NSNG and the DDP Yoga combined. Yeah. But I had a handful of people say, make a YouTube channel, make a YouTube channel. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
But so I made one, and I remember the first time I made it, I went to work the next day, and some of the people that were encouraging me to do it, I said, man, I'm not doing this again. I feel so gross doing this. I feel like I'm pimping myself out, and I don't like that feeling, you know? And literally during the conversation, I had 3 people reach out to me and said, hey, I'm 500 pounds. Hey, I'm 600 pounds.
Right.
And I've realized while I might not be the smallest person currently right now, I'm getting to where I want to be, but I could reach out to people that were in the same situation where I was, where they just feel hopeless and they feel helpless and they feel like they get denied for gastric bypass surgery and there's no hope for them. And that's all I want to do is just tell people,
yeah, exactly.
I am the least successful person and I can do it. You could do it.
Right. Exactly. That's my point. You know, and there's so many aspects of all this that like come together that people just don't get. It's like we're talking about, you know, how you changing your dietary protocols have you know, had made a difference even since your gastric bypass, and then you discovered yoga. It's like I never even as well. But before I started actually studying to be a personal trainer, I've been a nutritionist for a while, but the whole personal training thing came about, you know, recently in the last year or two. But before that, I had no clue how much flexibility played a part in what you were doing. Because I would go in, make no mistake, when I go in the gym, I train like a beast. I look like I'm about ready to chew nails, you know, and I have a mindset when I roll in there and I'm just ready to go to work. But I did not realize all of the other stuff that I needed to be doing, the stretching and whatnot. And I actually paid the price for it because my hamstrings were so tight that on my left leg, the hamstrings were pulling my knee backwards constantly.
Oh, geez.
And it actually, the patella shredded some of the meniscus. And I wound up having to have it surgically fixed. And I knew that it had happened. And at the time, I had a job where I walked constantly. It was nonstop, 12 hours plus a day, walking back and forth, back and forth. So I figured, I'm in my 50s. I'm just old. I'm just wearing out. And then my surgeon got in there and he's like, no, dude, that is not what happened at all. You need to start a regular stretching regimen. You need to get these hamstrings loosened up because, you know, it's like your hamstrings are so thick and so tight that there's no movement there. You know, there's no room for play there at all when there should be. You know, and granted, you don't want to you don't want a sloppy knee, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the muscles aren't so tight that they're pulling against where they're supposed to be. Yeah. So, and that's where yoga and stuff like that comes in. And my wife, God bless her, she's 4'9", weighs 100 and some pounds, and she's like has been telling me the entire time we've been together, you should really do some stretching. You should really do yoga. You should really, and I'm like, I ain't worried about that. Well, guess what? Guess what? Now I am worried about it. So, you know, that for those people watching, yoga is not for sissies. It will whoop your ass. Make no mistake.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That is the truth, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it increases functional strength too, that a lot of people don't realize.
Right. It makes just normal aspects of life so much more simple. Like being a fat guy, getting up off the floor, sitting Indian style or crisscross leg, whatever you want to say.
Right.
Just the simple, stupid things like that is so much easier. Tying your shoes. I mean,
oh yeah,
it makes life easier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I can remember when I was 400 pounds, I couldn't tie my shoes because I couldn't reach them. My belly was in the way. Yeah. But yeah, you know, and even after I lost the weight, there were times that I had issues, but and what I wasn't realizing, it was because, you know, like all the leg work I was doing, the squats and leg pressing and stuff like that, my hamstrings and my glutes were so tight, they wouldn't allow me to bend all the way over. I would have to pick my foot up and put it on a chair or something to tie my shoes.
You're crippling yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So, so now let me ask you, in your honest opinion, what would you think do you think that you could have lost, could you have dropped down from the 500 pounds without the gastric bypass, had you found the NSNG and the yoga and put that combination together before the bypass? Do you think you could have done it?
I have zero doubt in my mind that I could have. And I'm not taking away anyone who's ever had gastric bypass or anything, because I know a lot of people that have had success with it.
Right.
I messed it up, because of myself. I messed it up because I was still broken right here.
Yeah.
The surgery allowed me to lose weight, but once it was done doing its thing, I never fixed my mindset. Yep. And sure enough, went right back to my old ways, and sure enough, went right back to how I was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I learned about proper eating and the yoga that I was able to start fixing things. And everyone says, "Oh, you have so much willpower." I really don't have that much willpower. I just am now educated. I just know what to do correctly, and then I just have new habits in my life. I have new ways. It's just life now. It's just normal life. It's not. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think, okay, let's go prepare my next 12 meals or nothing like that. It's just how I live life now. It's just different things are getting consumed now. I'm more wise about what I intake. I'm not deprived. I'm not hungry. If I'm hungry, I eat. It's just I eat the right things. So I have no doubt in my mind, if I had that knowledge prior, I could have done it. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I actually have a friend that is she is like a counselor for people that are getting ready to have weight loss surgery, the bypass, and there are a couple different other surgeries that they do now. And she talks all the time about how important that it is. She's like the counselor. She works with these people months and months ahead of time before they have their surgery. And I don't know if when you had yours, if you had the same thing or not, but, it's like there's a lot of preparation that goes into that surgery if it's going to be successful, because here's the thing. And this is in a nutshell, my philosophy on dealing with clients as far as diets and things of that nature. Okay. If someone comes to me and say they're in a situation like you, they're over 500 pounds, and they come to me and they're like, "John, look, I have done everything. I've tried every diet that's ever come down the pike. I've tried to exercise, and I just can't seem to do it. I'm considering having surgery, but I figure if there's any way that I can do it without, tell me, educate me, give me some kind of clue." And the biggest thing that I can tell anybody is, as a coach, my job, first and foremost, is education. It is my job to give you the tools so you can make changes on your own. It's like the old saying in the Bible, give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish. It's the same exact concept. If you give somebody, and you are living proof, if you give somebody weight loss surgery and their mindset isn't right, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It's a combination of everything. And it's the same as if it's drastic, like in your case, or if it's just somebody that needs to lose 60, 70 pounds.
Right.
I'll give you the tools. I will teach you how to look at nutrition the right way. I will teach you how to work out the right way with proper form in a way that's going to be beneficial to you. And then I don't want to have to work with you anymore, because if I do my job right, I won't need to. My philosophy is I shouldn't ever have to take on a client that has to be my client longer than a year. Now, if they want to choose to stay as my client, so they've always got me to talk to about things and as a sounding board and whatnot, that's completely fine. But I don't want to have somebody constantly need me in order to produce a healthy lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Totally makes sense.
Yeah. And that's where I have absolutely, there are coaches that are like, nobody needs to have surgery. Nobody needs to have surgery. It can all be done this way. It can all be done that way. And in essence, nobody absolutely has to have surgery. Okay. Is there, unless it's a metabolic condition or something that has to be fixed, there are always ways. But sometimes it takes the surgery to be a catalyst to say, hey, all right, now that I've done this, now that I've taken this drastic step, now is when I need to get my mindset right, figure out my nutrition, figure out my exercise, and move forward. You know, and that's where it obviously seems like that's what you've done. You know, I mean, you had your downfall after the surgery where your mindset wasn't right, but then eventually everything clicked. Okay.
Yeah.
Some people it happens right away. Other people it doesn't. Everybody's individuals. It's the same reason one diet doesn't work for everybody and one exercise program doesn't work for everybody, because we're all different. And it's, you know, you get it. You get it. You get it now. You may not have got it back then, but you get it now, and that's what's important. So now let me ask you. So you've done all these things. You've done the surgery. You've done the NSNG. You're doing the yoga. Did you ever, at any point in time, work with a coach or a trainer?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I would just pick people's brains on people I know that were, you know, healthier people or lifted weights. Or I have a buddy at work, Mike. He's a muscle guy. He's kind of helped me out. And then I have a buddy at church, Jonathan, who's you know, he's a really knowledgeable guy. I think he's actually had some CrossFit gyms in the past, so I picked his brain too. But unfortunately, I pretty much, I don't want to say winged it. I just took the education that I had and the knowledge I had with the NSNG, and then also just press play on those DVDs with the DDP Yoga.
Right.
And just been lucky.
And and that's the thing. And I applaud people like you, people that are, you know, self-starter isn't really the right term, but I don't really, you know, right now I don't really have another term for it. You can take information that's given to you and find a way to apply it to your situation to your benefit. Okay. And that is why you've never needed a coach. And that's fantastic. You know, I wish more people were like you, but the fact of the matter is the majority of them aren't. The majority of people that actually need to lose weight in today's society, every year at January, they, you know, for the entire month of January, they drive us coaches batshit crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like they're like blowing up our phones, and our email boxes are overflowing with all these people that want to lose weight. And it lasts about a month, and then, you know, it all goes away. It's because they don't have the mindset, and they're truly not ready. You know, a resolution is a resolution. You're saying to yourself, this is what I'm going to do. There is no turning back. As, you know, as one of my favorite mentors, Tony Robbins, has a habit of saying, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. Okay. If you're going to the island to take the island, if you're the Vikings and you're going to the island to take the island, burn the boats. That way you've got no way back.
Right.
There's no way to backpedal and slide back into your old ways. You have no choice but to move forward. So.
And I kind of feel like that's what I'm doing with the social media stuff. Yeah. Is I'm making it to be, because I don't want to look like an idiot. I've looked like an idiot enough in my life. My life. I'd like to, you know, get past that.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to be able to say, oh, see, I knew he was going to fail. I want people to say, dude, what is he doing? You know, wow, how is this happening? Yeah. You know, and just be a source of encouragement, not a source of a joke, you know?
Right. Well, so, I mean, if you go back and you look at my first YouTube videos here on my YouTube channel, I actually started this whole process. Now, mind you, I dabbled in some web design back in the early 2000s. I had a business that I ran for a few years doing that. But as far as like social media and YouTube and all this stuff, I had no clue. I've never had a problem speaking before people. I spent a number of years as a DJ and a karaoke host, so having a microphone in my front of my face never bothered me. But this whole process started in the basement of my home, where I'm down there with a little table and the family TV hooked up to a laptop and a webcam, and my 4 little dogs running around in the background behind me. And it was like the audio was horrible and the video was horrible. And and now because I want people to take me seriously in what I'm doing. I've kind of upgraded everything, but it's at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the message.
Right.
Okay. It's about the message that I want to put out there. And I'm like you, I don't want to look like an idiot. Okay. Last year in December, I had to have a total knee replacement in my right knee that was like, as a result of an injury that I had back in the 80s, I wound up developing arthritis. Well, long story short, I had to have the knee replaced. But last year I spent probably a good 10 months being relatively inactive because I was bone on bone. If I spent a half hour on my feet, my leg would swell up to the size of a watermelon. So I gained 50 pounds last year. All right. Now, in January, middle of January, I got to go ahead that I was good to go back to the gym. So I jumped back on keto really hard and started going back to the gym, and I've lost over 30 pounds already.
Nice.
And I lost the weight because it's not healthy for me, number one. But number two, I'm out here preaching to everybody that'll listen, hey, do something about your health. Don't hold on to all that visceral fat in your midsection because it's not good for you, things like that. How do I look going around preaching that if I'm 50 pounds overweight? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's as we spoke earlier, it's all about accountability, and it doesn't matter whether it's just social media or, even accountability with your own family. For those of you watching, if you're not on social media, I'm not saying you have to get on social media in order to be successful to lose weight. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is find a way to make yourself accountable and then stick to it, you know? So now let me ask you, how much of a change did it make in your family life with your wife and your little girls?
Everywhere, every aspect of my life is significantly better. I've always found myself to be a relatively happy, lighthearted person, but it's a cliche to say, but I truly believe that saying where they say your eyes are the window to the soul.
Yes.
And I've seen, I was making some side-by-side pictures of my progress, and man, I've seen too many pictures of myself, and you could just see my eyes. And it just was sadness, man. It just wasn't me. It wasn't who I really was. And call it whatever it was. I guess it's just unhappiness because I know where I was at. I know I was just eating myself to death.
Sure.
So just the simple things like my little girls will want to play, and it's not a problem to get on the floor. Whereas before, sitting on the floor, laying on the floor, my goodness, I would have to schedule on a calendar when I wanted to plan to get back up. It was just It was just stupid things like that, and like the ages of my kids, they're wanting to learn how to ride bikes, or they are learning how to ride bikes. Yeah. Before it'd be like, oh, okay, good luck, don't crash. And now I can run with them and stay with them and help them learn.
Right.
And then also just and then just my family aspect, with my kids, with my wife, just everything is just so much better. Small stupid things that significantly heavy people know and like other regular people don't know about is I go to dinner or go to lunch or whatever with my family, just with my wife. I don't have to look or eyeball when I walk in. Can I fit in that booth? Will that chair hold me?
Right.
I've always joked around that morbidly obese people are the best structural engineers at a glance because we can eyeball from 50 feet across the room if a chair is going to hold us. And
absolutely,
it's just stupid stresses like that you have to incorporate in your life that nobody else has to. So just everywhere. I understand, and this doesn't bother me whatsoever in the fact that it was coming from a kid, but kids are kids and they just are brutally truthful.
Yes.
I remember last year or year before that, maybe, when I was, in the 450 pound range, I was helping coach soccer for one of my kids. And after a practice, my oldest daughter came up and said, "Hey, such and such little girl said that you're really, really fat." Well, I can handle that.
Right.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
But that's not stuff my daughter needs to know about.
No.
I just need to be dad to my daughter, not with the stipulation of, wow, your dad's really fat.
Right.
Funny thing is about a month ago, she saw the same girl and she's like, oh, your dad's not fat anymore. Well, I kind of already am, but significantly different. So it's just, just small things like that. There's countless things in my life that are significantly better with my family, with my wife, that the weight loss, comes with the weight loss, it's just so much better. Like my wife and I are going on a flight here in a couple of weeks. And before we would be like, okay, well, sorry, Sandy, but I'm going to be creeping up all over your side of the chair because I can't help it. I'm overflowing, which now I can just go as a normal human being, sit with my wife, not squash her.
Right.
Just things like that. It make life so much better.
Indeed. Okay, so the last question that I have for you is one that I ask everybody that I do a podcast with.
Sure.
If you could make a change, if you could change one thing about health and fitness on a global level, meaning if you could institute a policy, if you could get one idea out there that would spread worldwide that would affect health and fitness, what would it be?
I think it'd be a pretty easy one for me. I think we need to readdress this garbage idea of what the food pyramid looks like, and we need our whole grains and we need all this crap. I think that definitely needs to be readdressed and relooked at because there's too much proof that we got that food pyramid almost literally upside down.
Oh yeah.
And the whole eat your grains, basically. The whole grain movement and everything was just, and I'm not trying to sound like an alarmist or a conspiracy theorist or nothing, but that was just a clever way of marketing us to eat their byproduct from processed food,
Right,
so
right.
I would love nothing more for us to globally be able to rethink what healthy eating is and, just kind of recalibrate what that should look like,
Right.
There's just too much proof, I think, nowadays, and too much success stories of people going completely against what it says to do and having massive success.
Yeah, exactly. Now the thing is this: there is tons of research out there that says that we can live without grains, we can live without carbohydrates. If you go back to our ancestors, they ate primarily animal meat and animal fat. That was their main food source. The only time they foraged for berries and stuff like that was when there was a shortage of meat. But, vegetation was not their main food source. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not, if you're vegan and being vegan works for you and you're healthy, more power to you. If you're carnivore, if you're keto, if you're paleo, I don't care what your diet is, as long as it works for you. All your health markers are in line and whatnot. Where I do have a problem is when people get on their soapbox and say, this is the only way that's right and everybody should eat like this. The only thing I would say in answer to your question is this. I totally agree. The body does not need carbohydrates for fuel. If you look at the scientific research, there are two main substrates that the body can use for fuel. There is glucose, and then there are ketone bodies. Those are the two things. Ketone bodies are like the most efficient fuel source versus carbohydrates. I like it too because I spent a number of years as an automotive mechanic too. And I liken it to carbohydrates are like a gasoline motor and ketones are like a diesel motor. If you take a gasoline motor and a diesel motor and you put 50,000 miles on both of them, and then you take those motors out of the vehicles, you put them on a bench and you tear them down, the gasoline motor has all kinds of carbon and gunk and everything else in it. And you pull that diesel motor apart and you can literally eat off the parts. They're so clean.
Right.
And that's
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And that's something that people just don't realize. Even to the point of your mind, your brain runs better on ketones than it does glucose.
Oh, yeah.
The reason being ketone bodies are smaller. The particles are smaller. The molecules are much smaller, so they can permeate the blood-brain barrier much easier than what glucose can. Therefore, your brain picks up the ketones faster than it does the glucose, makes it run at it. It's like a higher performance. It's like putting Cam 2 racing fuel in your body versus 87 unleaded. You know what I mean? That's how I like to put it together. Well, Scott, I sure do appreciate you taking some time this evening to come on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. As I said at the beginning of this, knowing your story has been inspiring to me, and I'm sure you're going to continue to inspire many others as well. Before we go, why don't you take a second to let everybody know where they can find you on social media and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a dedicated Yahoo account, which is lessofmewithnsng at yahoo.com. So you're more than welcome. All I do is I share what has worked for me. Like you have mentioned, it's whatever works for you. I'm just willing to share what has worked for me and what my story is.
Right.
I have a Facebook group page called Rebuilding with Bacon. And then you could find me on Instagram and Twitter with Less of Me with NSNG, and as well as my YouTube channel, Less of Me with NSNG. And I'm pretty much an open book, and I just want to just help out others. And hey, if you think this is something that can work for you and you can have some success, by all means, I'm an open book, and I'll just share my stories with you. And best of luck.
Absolutely, that's fantastic, man. Well, like I say, I sure do thank you for coming on the show. And when you, all right, before we go, what's your goal weight?
Yeah.
All right, because you're down to, where are you at right now?
So I'm, again, not light, I'm 283. So I kind of, this is a tough question for me because I don't know what my normal adult weight should be because I've never been a weight of a normal adult.
Right.
So
right.
I've always had in my head, like my ideal weight, because I don't ever want to really be small. I kind of want to be a bigger guy still.
Sure.
I would love to see 245. This is gross, but it's the reality of life. I have excess skin. Sure. I don't know how much that's going to play a part of me getting to that. I don't know. Something that'll need to be addressed relatively soon, but I would love to see 245.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, when you hit 245, because I have faith in you, when you hit 245, hit me up and come back on the show, and we'll talk about it some more.
Sounds like a plan, brother.
All right,
Absolutely.
man. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and we will see you again soon. Guys, if you got value out of this video, which I'm sure you did, you're always going to see guests like this on my show. I want to bring you the most inspirational and informational people that I possibly can. But if you're getting value out of what I'm doing, do me a favor. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video, share it, hit the bell when you hit the subscribe button so you get notified when the new podcasts drop. We're looking to do them every week. So just support the channel and I'll support you. So until I see you guys again, playtime's over. Get your asses to work.